Hello Year 5, this is your second maths lesson on volume, so you'll need your maths book with you, and our learning objective today is to compare volume. So make sure you write today's learning objective and date in your maths book and underline them neatly. Our signs of success today are to know that volume is a measurement of three-dimensional space, so that's something we talked a lot about in our last lesson. And to find the volume of a 3D shape by counting cubes, just like we did yesterday. To use less than, greater than, or equal to compare volume, so those different symbols you can see there. To put shapes in order of their volume, and also to explain your reasoning. So if you need to pause to finish writing your LO and date, you can do that, and then press play when you're ready to move on. Okay, so a little review of what we did yesterday. I wonder if you can complete my sentence. Volume is a measurement of, and you can either think this in your head, or you might say it out loud, or you might share with a partner what you think volume is a measurement of. So here's my definition. Volume is a measurement of the amount of space an object or liquid takes up. Let's say it together. Volume is a measurement of the amount of space an object or liquid takes up. I hope you were joining in and you weren't just leaving me on my own, Year 5. Okay, I've got a little true or false question for you to get you thinking about your learning from our last lesson. So, true or false? Pouring water out of a jug reduces its capacity. Pouring water, so here's my jug. If I was to pour water out of that jug, would it reduce its capacity? Have a little think to yourself. You don't need to write anything down, but have a little think, or maybe a talk to somebody else, and then press play again when you're ready to talk about that question. So, true or false, pouring water out of a jug reduces its capacity. That is actually false. The capacity of the jug is going to stay the same, because if you remember from yesterday, capacity means how much water that jug can hold. How much can you fit in it? Now, I can fit in a litre, or it looks like I can fit in a little bit more than a litre. That's not going to change. The amount of space in my jug is not going to change. The thing that will change is the volume of water in my jug. So remember, volume is the amount of space an object or liquid or gas or whatever takes up. So the amount of space that my liquid takes up in this container will change if I pour some out, okay? But the capacity of my jug won't change, okay? So that's just to remind you that volume and capacity are different. It's not about the amount of space in something, it's how much space that object takes up. Okay, so today we're comparing volume. So we'll be looking at two different shapes or objects and comparing their volume, saying which one has got a greater volume, which one has got a lesser volume. So I've got two shapes for you there, a lovely orange shape and a lovely blue shape. I'd like you to have a look at them both. I want you to have a think, which of these shapes do you think has the greatest volume? Pause, have a look, have a think, and press play when you're ready to talk about it. So let's have a look at my two shapes. Now I can see that this shape here is taller than this shape here, but I might also say that this shape here is wider than this shape here. So I wonder whether that makes a difference as to what their volume is. Now remember, volume is the amount of space a shape takes up, and I can see these shapes have been split into cubes, which is often very handy when we're looking at volume. So this shape is made of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubes. And this shape is made of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubes. So which shape has the greatest volume? Well, I think those shapes have the same volume. I'm going to draw a little equal sign in between them. These shapes have the same volume. They both have a volume of 6 cubes. It might look like they have different volumes because one of them is taller than the other, or one of them is wider than the other, but they're just shown at a different orientation. They're pretty much the same shape, but just shown at different orientations. Okay, so as long as those two shapes were the same size, they would have the same volume. Okay, have a look at these two shapes for me then. So I've kept my lovely blue shape there, but I've got a yellow shape to compare it with now. So again, same as before, pause the video, have a think, have a look. which of these shapes has the greatest volume, and press play when you're ready to talk about it. Okay, my blue shape here, again, it's taller than this shape, but this shape is wider. So I'm wondering, do they have different volumes, the same volume? Which shape has the greatest volume? So I'm going to think again about how many cubes I've got here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the volume of this shape is 6 cubes. And I'm going to look at this one here. So in terms of the cubes, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But if it is a true cube, a full cube, I know that it's actually going to be 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2. I'm going to have 2 times 2 on this side, and then I'm going to have the same thing again here on my second layer. So this cube here, this shape is made of 8 cubes. So which shape has the greatest volume? This shape here, the yellow cube, has a greater volume than the blue cuboid. Okay, so thinking about what we've just talked about together, I'd like you to have a go at step 1. So step 1 is broken down into some sort of different questions here. And it's all about these lovely people. We've got Whitney and we've got Tommy. And they've each made a shape using cubes. This is Whitney's shape. She's gone for blue cubes. And this is Tommy's shape. He's gone for some green cubes. Very nice. Each cube that they are using has a volume of 1 centimetres cubed. So that's really handy. It helps us to work out the volume really easily. So 1 centimetre cubed each, they've made 2 different shapes. 1A says, what is the volume of Whitney's shape? So you can work that out. 1B, what's the volume of Tommy's shape? And 1C says, Whitney and Tommy are comparing the volumes of their shapes. So you need to have solved 1A and 1B first. Then you can read what each of them has to say. And you've got to decide who do you agree with and explain your answer. Whitney says, my shape has a greater volume because it is taller. Tommy says, my shape is a greater volume because I used more cubes. Who do you agree with? Explain your answer. So you've got 1A, B and C to have a go at. 1A and 1B, you need to be using centimetres cubed to answer that. And in 1C, I need to see, I agree with because. Okay, so I need to see you explaining your reasoning. So pause the video, have a go at step 1 in your maths book and press play again when you're ready to check the answers. Okay, well done, year 5. Let's have a look at the answers to step 1. So you might want to mark with a different coloured pen. And let's see how you got on. So we've got Whitney's shape and Tommy's shape. The volume of Whitney's shape was 6 centimetres cubed. Remember, the question told us each cube they were using measured 1 centimetre cubed. She used 6. Tommy used 7, so the volume of his shape was 7 centimetres cubed. So for question 1C, you had to read what Whitney and Tommy said and decide who you agreed with. Now, hopefully you agreed with Tommy. Tommy said his shape had a greater volume because he used more cubes. Now, even though Whitney's is taller, remember, volume means the amount of space that a shape takes up. So you may have used that definition in your explanation. More cubes means a greater volume. So Whitney's shape is taller, but Tommy's shape is wider. Okay, so you will have explained that in your own words, but as long as you said you agree with Tommy, and as long as you've explained why you think that, so thinking maybe about what volume means, thinking that even though hers is taller, it doesn't take up as much space as his because he's used more of those 1 centimetre cubes. Okay, so have a look at your answers, see how confident you are. If there's anywhere where you've made a mistake, got a different answer to me, then have a think back at what you did. Maybe you could rewind on the YouTube video and just watch the explanations again to help you understand. Right, moving on then. So we are comparing volume of comparing the volume of different shapes. So I've got some shapes here, and we're now going to look at using those symbols that you've used over and over again in lots of different ways in maths. So we've got our less than, greater than, or equal to symbols. So remember, I know some of you think about crocodiles when you think about these symbols, but essentially this one here is saying that something is less than something else, and this one here is saying it is greater than something else. I know we think about the crocodile eating the larger number or object or thing. So the wider end of that symbol needs to point towards the larger thing. Okay, so I've got some shapes here that are quite straightforward to find their volumes. I can see exactly how many cubes there are. There aren't any hidden cubes behind anything. So this one here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubes. And here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cubes. Now, one thing I will mention is I can see that on my left-hand side, it looks like the cubes are larger than the cubes on the right-hand side. So if I look at one cube here and compare it to one cube there, this one does look larger on the left-hand side. Now, if those cubes were the same, sometimes with pictures it's hard to tell, isn't it? If those cubes are all the same size, then I would say that this shape is the larger shape. Okay, it's got the larger volume because it has more cubes. But if those two cubes are different sizes, then I can't say which one has got the larger volume. Okay, so that's just something to look out for. But for now, we'll just think, okay, maybe it's just the pictures are a little bit wrong. If those shapes are made of centimeter cubes or they're, made of the same size cubes, then I can say that this shape here has a lesser volume than this shape here. Okay, these ones, I think the cubes look about the same size here, so that's going to make it really easy for me to compare. Now, the more challenging thing is working out how many cubes each one has. So remember, you can either look at one layer, so think what's the length and the width, how many cubes are on this layer, and then how many of those layers do I have? Or you can think multiply the length by the width and then multiply that by the depth. So here I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cubes by 1, 2, 3, 4 cubes. So this layer here is going to be 20 cubes, isn't it? Okay, so I've got 5 along here and then 4 rows of that. 5 lots of 4 make 20. Now there are 1, 2, 3, 4 of those layers of 20. So I need to do 4 multiplied by 20 to find my volume. 4 multiplied by 20 is going to be 80. I know that 4 times 2 is 8, so 4 times 20 is 80. That's a small multiplication. So if I knew that they were centimeter cubes, then I could say 80 centimeters cubed, or I could just say 80 for now, 80 cubes. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here. Again, I'm imagining that these cubes are exactly the same size. I don't know for sure, but that's what I'm assuming just for this maths example. So I'm going to look at this layer of cubes here. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 5 along and 3 rows of that. So I've got 5 times 3, which means this layer here is 15. Okay. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. So 15 multiplied by 4. Now I could do a written multiplication to work that out, or I could just think, well, 15 times 2, double 15, and then times it by 2 again. 15 times 2 is 30, times that by 2 again gives me 60. So 60 cubes to make this one. So I can use my greater than symbol here to say that the volume of this shape is greater than the volume of this shape. So hopefully that's given you an idea of how to compare shapes using those symbols. Remembering to think about whether you can see all the cubes or whether you need to look at the layers that make up that 3D shape and multiply the width and the length by the depth. Okay. So you've got some similar questions here. So the first part of your step 2 is doing exactly what we've just done. So I've actually labeled each of these shapes, shape 1 or shape 2, and you need to use less than, greater than, or equal to compare them. So in your book, you could write 2A, you could write shape 1 and shape 2, and then write the symbol in between you think needs to go there, and then do the same for the others. The first couple here, you can see all of the cubes, so it should be fairly straightforward, except for perhaps one hiding in here. These ones, you might need to think more about the layers of that shape, multiplying the width and the length and the depth. And then 2D is just taking that step further. you've got 5 different shapes here. They're labeled A, B, C, D, and E. They're made from cubes, and it's asking you to put the shapes in ascending order of volume, okay? So think about ascending, that means from smallest to largest. So work out what the volume of each one is, and then tell me what order those letters go in, okay? For all of these shapes, it doesn't tell us whether those shapes are made of centimetre cubes or what those cubes measure. So we're just going to think about how many cubes rather than centimetres cubed. So pause it, have a go at step 2 in your book, and press play when you're ready to go through the answers together. Okay, let's have a look at those answers. So you might want to you might want to swap for a different colour pen if you'd like to. So our shapes here on 2A, these two had an equal volume, same number of cubes. Here, I think I labelled this shape 3. Shape 3 has a greater volume than shape 4. And then shape 5 has a small volume. Its volume is less than the volume of shape 6. Okay, so have a check of your symbols. And then we were putting these shapes in ascending order of volume. So smallest to largest. So the smallest volume was E, then C, D, A, and B. So E, C, D, A, and B. Okay, so check your answers. Have a think about whether you agreed with these answers on the board or not. And if you think you've made a mistake, maybe see if you can work out why that is. Which thing did you perhaps not count the squares that couldn't be seen? Have a think about why that might be. And if you need to rewind the video and have another look, you can do. Well done, Year 5. We're going to go straight on to some step 3 challenges because I think you know everything you need to know to tackle these. So it's actually really 2 questions that I've kind of split into extra parts. So on the first one, we've got Dora and Ron. So let's just focus on Dora and Ron for a moment and just hide the rest of the gang. So Dora and Ron have each made a shape using cubes. So here's Dora's shape, here's Ron's shape. Do you agree with Dora? So let's look at what Dora says. My shape has a greater volume because it has more cubes. So have a look at those 2 shapes. Think about what you can see there. And think about whether they might have the same, whether her shape has greater volumes. So you need to write your answer in a sentence. I agree with Dora because, or I disagree with Dora because. Okay. 3B, we've got a different gang of people. We've got Amir, Eva, and Alex, and they've made shapes out of centimetre cubes. Now, Amir's shape, they've shown you a picture of. What is the volume of Amir's shape? So you need to do some thinking about any cubes that you can't see, okay? It's made of centimetre cubes, so you can write your answer in centimetres cubed. Eva's made a shape, but they're not showing us Eva's, she's describing it. She says, I use 24 cubes to make my shape. What is the volume of Eva's shape? And then lastly, we've got Alex's shape, and she's describing it to you as well. She says, the volume of my shape is greater than Amir's, but less than Eva's. What could the volume of Alex's shape be? So for Amir's and Eva's, you can work out exactly what their volume is. And for Alex's, you have to do some, I guess, guesswork or using what you know. There might be more than one right answer for Alex's shape. So kind of 2 different situations. You've got Dora and Ron's shape and the shapes, and then you've got Amir, Eva, and Alex's. But I've split it into 3A, B, C, and D for you. Have a go at that in your books. Pause that while you're having a go, and then press play when you're ready to go through those answers together. Okay, well done, Year 5. Let's just go through those quickly. So we had Dora and Ron. Dora said that her shape had a greater volume because it has more cubes. And the answer here says, do you agree with Dora? No, because Dora's using smaller cubes than Ron. So it's hard to tell, isn't it, from a picture? But if we're assuming that these cubes are bigger and these cubes are smaller, which they do look like they are in the pictures, then we would say that hers is perhaps doesn't have a smaller volume. It does look smaller generally, doesn't it, than a Ron's shape, okay? So we can only really compare the volumes directly if they've got the same size cubes. If they haven't got the same size cubes, we have to kind of roughly look at them and decide. Okay, and then on the next part of the question, I split it into different question numbers than you did, but we've got Amir, Eva and Alex. So Amir's shape was 18 centimeters cubed. Eva's shape was 24 centimeters cubed. And then Alex's shape, you could have had multiple different answers. So it just needed to be greater than Amir's and less than Eva's. So you could have had 19, 20, 21, 22, or 23 centimeters cubed, okay? So anything between 19 centimeters cubed and 23 centimeters cubed. So check your answers, decide how you got on with that. And if you've got a different answer, maybe think about what your mistake might have been, see if you can work that out. Okay, let's just take a moment to review how we got on with our learning today. So today our objective was to compare volume. We needed to know that volume is a measurement of three-dimensional shape. We needed to find the volume of a 3D shape by counting its cubes. We had a go at using less than, greater than and equal to compare volumes. And we had a go at putting shapes in order of their volume and also explaining our reasoning. We had a couple of opportunities to say what we agreed with and why. So I want you to just reflect for a moment on how you got on with your learning today. Maybe write a learning comment to us when you upload your work to Class Dojo. And remember, we're here if you need any help. So do just send us a comment or a message when you upload your work. Have a fantastic rest of your day, Year 5. Well done. And I'll see you again soon.